It's time again for the Daily Bolt with your host, Dr. Jeff Tilley. Today's topic: where the hell has the Daily Bolt been all this time? So, the topic kind of speaks for itself. It's been about 9 months since my last podcast, and it's been a very interesting full 9 months. Hasn't been an easy 9 months, but life is rarely easy. And sometimes we just have to go through life and work through the things that we need to work through. So, the last podcast that I recorded was back in mid-September, at a time that I had just accepted a new position to do something I had never done before, which was teach in the public school system. I've taught at universities. I've had research jobs. I'd never taught full-time in the public school system. I'd done some substituting over the last couple of summers. And I did some substituting again this summer as well. And I'm doing some summer school right now as I come to you from a completely different place. In mid-September of 2018, I was still living in Athens, Georgia, northeast of Atlanta. Land of lots of heat, humidity, and especially bugs. I am now coming to you from the small town of Fernley, Nevada, which is located northeast of Reno. And I was offered a job in a school district to the southeast of Fernley, about a half-hour commute away, to teach science in a middle school. That experience by itself has also provided lots of material for podcasts, and I had put a note on my Facebook page under my Tilley Weather Associates page that there would be a new series of podcasts dealing with science education and with education in general, based on, in large part, my experiences the last 9 months. It's been a real learning experience, to say the least. And even without that learning experience, I certainly have some things to say about education and science education in this country. One of the reasons I wanted to teach middle school was because, based on what I'd been seeing at the university level, what I've actually figured out was that middle school was the place where science education really needed to be stepped up. Because in many high schools, it can be optional. There are states in this country where there's no testing for science proficiency or knowledge within high school. English and math, writing, reading, all that sort of thing, tend to be the focus of many programs, and that's also true for this as well. So I thought that perhaps maybe it was time to try and tackle the problem at a different place. The problem being the lack of science knowledge and understanding that we see in many young adults. Many young adults who now go to the voting booth, and the knowledge they get either comes off of the internet, which can be a questionable source of material, and from media outlets, which over the past year have also not distinguished themselves as being very reliable. More to come about that in future podcasts. And suffice to say, what I found in teaching in a middle school environment, trying to teach science, was eye-opening and illuminating. And as I said, it's given me a lot of things to talk about with respect to this podcast. And they'll be coming up in future podcasts, and some of them might be barn burners. Some of them might offend some of you who know me for saying some of the things that I'm saying. But I'm going to be speaking the truth as I see it. And if you have trouble with that, then you don't have to listen to the podcast. If you don't have any trouble with honest critique from someone who's been there in the trenches, then I encourage you to stick with me, and we'll have an interesting and productive series of podcasts and discussions. The other thing that's happened over the last 9 months relates to a lot of things in my personal life. Not long after in fact, even on the way as I was driving out here from Georgia to Nevada, my father had a bad heart attack, and that started a downhill spiral in his health that went through the rest of October, November, and December, that he passed away just a few days before Christmas 2018. And obviously that hasn't been a lot of fun to try and deal with. Dealing with issues with the house, the estate, everything, grieving, mourning. That's been a process. It's not been a fast process. It never really is. It often takes a long time to recover from a loss like that. And I can't say that I'm still totally recovered. I had hoped to start this next series of podcasts about 10 days ago, on about the 8th of June. And as most of you know, if not all of you, Father's Day was this past weekend. And with that coming up, I just wasn't ready to start and share some of what I've been going through and been feeling. And now we're a few days past Father's Day, and I feel like I need to get this started again, to get this rolling, because I think what I have to say is too important, and I think my dad would want me to say it. So, at any rate, that's kind of the answer to this question. Where the hell have I been? Where has the Daily Bolt been? Why aren't there any podcasts? So, there's going to be probably a fair number of podcasts that come fairly quickly between now and the 4th of July. I know for a while I was only doing one podcast a week, or maybe a podcast every 10 days or so. We're going to see a whole bunch of them because I do have a lot to say, and I think it needs to be said sooner rather than later. I hope you'll join me. And of course, there's going to be science tidbits along the way. In fact, the next podcast is going to be very science-oriented, and it also is going to come back into tying into what I want to say about science education and even education in general. So, if you like these podcasts, please feel free to be a patron. You can go on to Podbean, the app that I use to record these podcasts, and pledge some money and become a patron. And as I had hoped before, I'd love to be able to take these more into into a video format instead of just audio, but that costs more money. Audio costs money too, but video costs quite a bit more. And financially in particular, it's been a challenging past year for me. But I'm back on the air. I'm going to stay on the air and hopefully stimulate a lot of thought, discussion, hopefully not too much shouting. If you find that you're being offended by the podcast, then just stop listening. Don't go on to my Facebook page and put all sorts of nasty stuff there, because you will find yourself blocked. And if you put in honest discussion, honest debate, I'll address it. I'll be happy to respond. But if you're just going to name call, then I'll find a way to not have to deal with that or see that. There's way too much of that in society now, and it needs to stop. At any rate, I hope you enjoy the podcasts as we go forward. And for now, I'm Dr. Jeff Tilley. This is the Daily Bolt. We're back. And I hope you have a great morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on when you're listening to this. And as always, God bless.